If you crash your car, are you better off in a small, modern, 5-star safety-rated car or in something big and solid? The only sensible way to resolve this is to smash this one into this one and see what happens. I've always been fascinated with how the world works, and I've got lots of questions about why things happen. To find out the answers, I'm going to blow stuff up. New Zealand's first recorded car crash was in 1904 when a car travelling on Hobson Street collided with a tramcar. Since that day, car collisions have become an everyday occurrence. In order to understand more about cars and collisions, they're regularly crashed in controlled circumstances. In this episode, we're going to crash a large, heavy, old car into a small, modern car to find out which one you and your family would be better off in. No one's ever done this test before because when ANCAP do it, they compare vehicles within the same category. So this is the first time ever in New Zealand that anyone's taken a modern, small, 5-star safety-rated car and smashed that into a much bigger, older car. Even the experts don't know what's going to happen. So let's start off with getting our heads around the basics of smashing stuff into stuff. The first and most important thing to understand is that you can't create or destroy energy. You can only transform it into different kinds of energy. Now, all moving objects have kinetic energy. And when they collide with something, all of that kinetic energy has to go somewhere almost instantaneously. So what happens to it? Sir Isaac Newton made this little contraption, and it isn't just a quirky desk toy, it actually demonstrates one of the fundamental laws of the physical universe. The law of conservation of momentum says that in a collision, energy isn't lost, it's transformed. So this is an elastic collision, and when the balls collide, the energy is transferred back and forth. But there's a second type of collision where something quite different happens. In an inelastic collision, the two objects effectively remain stuck together. Now, in the real world, there's no such thing as a perfect elastic or inelastic collision. It's always a mixture of the two, and some of the energy is also lost in the form of heat and sound. But the important thing to understand is that all of that kinetic energy has to go somewhere. And in the case of a car crash, it goes into destroying the vehicles. But just as importantly, some of it also goes into destroying us. To put all this theory to the test, I've come to a top-secret, high-tech testing facility in Christchurch. Home Solutions are experts in full-scale dynamic impact testing, which means they can wreck just about anything. And this is their crash test footage. I've come up with a cunning and fun way to illustrate the science of collisions. We've got two supermarket trolleys, and because supermarket trolleys never go on a straight line, we've got a wire rope which will guide them in together. And then we're going to basically smash them together at different speeds and at different weights to see what impact that has on the collision. And 3, 2, 1. Mass and speed determine the amount of force in a collision. Both trolleys are the same mass and are travelling at similar speeds, so the energy of the collision is distributed evenly between the two. But what if my trolley weighed a lot more? What if this time it had more mass? We're going to add 130 kilograms to the trolley on the right. Not the most controlled experiment, but just pretend for a moment the trolley on the right is the older heavy car and the one on the left is the new modern safe car. As you probably already suspected, mass matters. Apply this to our car crash and our little car is in big trouble. That time, I won the collision because my car was the bigger, heavier one, so it pushed the smaller, lighter one out of the way. But what would happen if we took this experiment to ridiculous extremes? Yep, That's a 2,300 kilogram concrete block, and this is something I've always wanted to do. Ever had a supermarket trolley hit your car? Time for a little revenge. Now, I know what you're thinking. All that theory's all very well, but what would it look like if a supermarket trolley was hit with the amount of energy equivalent to slamming into a concrete wall at 90 kilometres an hour? Watch this. Speed times mass equals big trouble for our little trolley. 3, 2, 1. The force from the concrete block has to go somewhere. Remember we said energy can't be destroyed, only transformed. Here we see the energy transformed into a force of destruction. Since the concrete block doesn't break or give it all, the full force of its weight goes into the trolley. The big takeaway here is that our older, heavier car is going to have a huge advantage in a collision with a smaller, modern car. It's pretty clear that when it comes to collisions, weight matters. But we're only just getting started because our little car has got some really big ideas behind it. The 2013 Toyota Yaris has been described as a willing little unit, smooth, quiet, and having plenty of punch for its size. More importantly for us, it received a 5-star NCAP safety rating. 18 years earlier, in 1995, the Holden Berliner was praised for its power and reliability. It never received an NCAP safety rating, but some models were fitted with one of those newfangled airbags on the driver's side. The problem with collisions is that the car stops almost instantly, but the passengers don't. So clever people came up with this idea. So how the airbag works is that instead of a sudden jarring collision with the metal, the passenger hits the airbag, which absorbs the energy and provides a softer landing. So what other clever ideas have scientists come up with to protect passengers? The Berliner and Yaris both have airbags, the difference being the Yaris has 7, while the Berliner has 1. Well, had 1. We just used it in our little airbag demonstration. Pre-tension safety belts are another feature the Berliner lacks. The Yaris has a reinforced passenger compartment and crumple zones, a structural feature designed to absorb energy in a collision rather than passing it on to its passengers. When it comes to surviving crashes, there are 2 magic words: crumple zones. How they effectively work is they absorb the energy from the collision and they slow the deceleration. So I'm going to build one myself from egg cartons and see what the impact is on Crash Test Nigel. 3, 2, 1. After that demonstration of why you should always wear a safety belt, one was provided. Right, 3, 2, 1. Now, the important thing to consider here is that the trolleys are travelling at similar speeds, right? But unlike before, when the heavier trolley bulldozed the lighter trolley backwards, our egg cartons have deformed and crumpled to absorb some of the impact of the collision, and it's nowhere near as pronounced as before. So this is a perfect example of how crumple zones work, because all of that kinetic energy from the collision has been absorbed. Egg cartons have all deformed, but it means a slower deceleration, and our passenger Crash Test Nigel is much better off. But can crumple zones save you from a catastrophic injury? Later, we pit science against brawn in a fight to the finish. There are 3 stages in any collision. There's the first stage, the initial impact. The second stage, when the outside of your body first contacts the car. And the third stage, when things like your brain impact on your skull. To show you what that's like, I've almost exactly recreated the human skull here with my Perspex bowl, and inside of that, a jelly brain. Then we're going to crash the 2 trolleys together, and we'll see what happens when soft things hit hard things. Think of the brain as an egg yolk inside an eggshell. The eggshell is the skull. In an accident, the brain's injured by the pulling or tearing of delicate brain tissue, which is the consistency of poorly set jelly, leaving it bruised or damaged. That was a pretty catastrophic brain injury, as evidenced by this rather large tear to the temporal area of the brain. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap this one out for a fresh one. We'll put a crumple zone on the front, and then we'll see what happens. Usually the damage is caused by the sudden acceleration and deceleration of the brain. One of the most important reasons for absorbing energy in collisions without passing it on to the occupants is to protect the brain. So the science has worked exactly as it should. The crumple zone has absorbed all of that kinetic energy, which meant that our brain decelerated a whole lot slower, so it's actually in pretty good shape. If you take speed out of the equation, big will defeat small, but car collisions aren't quite as simple as that. Modern safety features play an important role in absorbing impact and protecting occupants. At this point, I really don't know which car I'd rather be in. The good news is, now we get to find out for real. It's time to bring in the crane, wire up the cars, and get on with crashing big car into little car. You might have thought we'd be using the old tried and true method of a brick on the accelerator to propel our cars. I certainly did, but we're not. While our cars have to be driverless, they still need to be controllable in terms of speed and direction. So our cars will be powered by gravity. The key to it all is this crane and that concrete block. The cars and crane are connected through a system of pulleys and wire. After a few careful calculations, the 5-ton block will be lifted to a height of 25 metres, which will propel both our cars to a collision speed of 70 kilometres per hour. Now it's time for a test fire of our mechanism. So what's going to happen is the crane will drop a concrete block, and that will instantly propel me with the force equivalent to 2 Gs that way. I'm going to have the engine running, so I've got power steering and brakes.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, shit. Yeah, so I misunderstood. I thought the crane driver was out and you were saying to him, we're going to go on 3, 2, 1, and then it went bang, oh, bang. I foolishly hit the brakes, so we need to go again.
That was the kickback. You look like you...
Yeah.
From where I was standing, I could see your robot was dilated.
Yeah, that was pretty good. That was good. 2 Gs, no problem. Just don't brake before it's finished dropping. That's the secret to this test. So that went a lot better because I didn't start braking halfway down, but when that block drops, you totally feel instantly 2 Gs of acceleration, boom, straight down that track. The key to all of this is that the cars actually collide. It almost never happens, but the last thing we want is 2 unmanned, uncontrolled cars careering off in opposite directions at 70 kilometres per hour. Like the ones we used on our trolleys, these wires will ensure that our cars collide, so they have to be tested and retested. Camera placement is crucial. We only get one go at this. We'll be employing 14 cameras at different angles, shooting at frame rates ranging from 25 to 5,000 frames per second to ensure we capture every moment of this collision. Those nifty little black and white stickers might not look like much, but they're tracking markers and they'll play a vital role in helping us record what actually happens in our collision. Real crash test dummies cost upwards of $400,000, so we've had to improvise somewhat. So there were 2 options for this part of the test. One was I sit in the car, but that's just stupidity, so instead we've gone for a slightly weird, creepy virtual Nigel. With our cars positioned and ready, Dr. Chris Allington, Home Solutions crash test expert, completes final checks on the crane and its load. Remember, once that concrete block is lifted, the entire crash area becomes live and any margin for error is gone.
Okay guys, so we've got our crane all set up now. We're about to start lifting the blocks. This is when it becomes very real. So safety first. We'll have to make sure the cameras are all turned on, armed, ready, set up before we lift those blocks. So anything you've got to do before those go up. Then we'll start lifting our blocks up in the air. When they get to the right height, you'll hear over the walkie-talkies, 3, 2, 1, go, and those blocks will come down. Critical thing for everyone, as soon as those blocks are an inch off the ground, the whole system's live. There's no point of return from there. We have to make sure that everyone's well clear of all those cables.
The moment of truth is fast approaching. If anything goes wrong from here, that spells disaster. Finally, it's time for the real deal, collision time. We're about to crash a 2013 Yaris into a 1995 Bellina. Science tells us that mass really matters in a collision. The Bellina, weighing 1.5 times the weight of the Yaris, has a huge advantage in terms of mass. But will this be countered by the modern safety science on board the Yaris? Will airbags, crumple zones, and a strong occupant compartment combine to defeat the heft of the Bellina? I really have no idea. Which would you rather be in? Which car is going to win? So here's how it works. Our crane drops 5 tons of concrete, 25 metres. That pulls our cables tight. Cars come hurtling down here, hit the blue block, steering mechanism goes away, towing mechanism goes away, freewheeling all the way across here, and it's something like 70 kilometres per hour in about a couple of milliseconds. All of that crash science comes together in a quite spectacular way. We're close now, almost live. We've thought of everything, or have we? When that block goes up, it's too late. This is the bit where it gets really serious. Any number of things could fail, a wire could snap, a pulley could fail. I see what you mean about tension at this point. Like, it's pretty tense. Yeah. There it goes, the block's going up. That means we're live. Crash time is moments away.
Are you off, John? 3, 2,
Here we go, guys.
1.
It made me jump. Yeah.
In real time, the violence of the impact was startling, but over in a moment. The collision was so instantaneous, it felt like it had 2 stages before and after. But in super slow motion, we get to see what really happened. The first thing that struck me was that what seems so brief in real time is actually an incredibly concentrated, sustained wave of destructive violence. We literally get to see energy transformed from one state to another. To me, it looks like the Bellina ate the Yaris and spat it out. Let's find out how it tasted. But, look at that.
Still open the door.
That's amazing. My God. The first thing to consider here is that the occupant area of the Yaris is still intact. You can see the shockwave travelling through the Bellina and its occupant zone, but not in the Yaris. The airbags in the Yaris deployed successfully. Obviously our crash test dummy wasn't up to much, but the benefits of airbags to the occupants in a collision are obvious. This passenger compartment is basically untouched. Like, that's amazing. Perhaps I should have attached some egg cartons to the Bellina because the crumple zones on the Yaris exceeded my expectations. The Bellina is almost 50% heavier than the Yaris, so the Yaris had to absorb a lot more of the impact without passing it on to its occupants. It's such a small car, you would think that thing hitting it, it would just destroy it.
Yeah, it's exactly like we saw with those supermarket trolleys. That crumple zone absorbs all that impact, and this is all that airspace we had before is all squashed up and crumpled up.
The severity of the punishment dealt to the Bellina surprised me. See, straight away,
Yeah.
so that's just pushed all of that. The interior of the Ballina really tells the story. Although big and tough, the Ballina's got a glass jaw. Like all bullies, it can give, but it can't take. Its lack of safety science means that its occupants have to absorb more of the impact of the crash in their bodies than their counterparts in the Yaris. In super slow motion, we see all the science in action, and like all natural phenomena, it has a beauty and majesty of its own. Just like the hammer and the can, it's an inelastic collision. You can see how the vehicles seem to stick together. Right before our eyes, we see kinetic energy being transformed into the destruction of both cars. Then mass appears to win as the Yaris accordions backwards. But the amazing thing is, it hasn't. In terms of our original question, Chris, whether you're better off on the small modern 5-star safety rated car or the much heavier, bigger, older car, in your view, what's the data saying?
Really clear, all of the data we've got from the video capture through to the damage we see in the cars is the occupant of the little car comes away a lot better.
So kind of hands down one, a little car.
Yeah, definitely you want the little car. Even the high-speed video footage we've got shows that during that impact, the little car's crumple zones worked exactly as we intended. It squashed back, absorbed the energy along the way. Even though when you look at the footage, the bigger mass of the larger car has pushed in and pushed the little car backwards, you'd still rather be in that little car.
At the beginning of the show, I posed the question, as passengers, would my family be better off in a small modern car or a large, heavy, old car? In a collision, size really does matter. Take speed out of the equation, and big will always defeat small, but car collisions aren't as simple as that. Modern safety features mean that even a small car is able to take much of the impact of a collision without passing it on to you and your family. What have we learned? Well, after all of that, mass was defeated by science and technology. That was a hands-down win to your small, modern, 5-star safety-rated car.
Nigel Latter's playing with fire, literally.
I want to see what really happens in a house fire by setting a house on fire. The degree of melting of the flamingometer will tell me how much energy the fire is emitting.
This is the episode that might just save your family.
What happens next happens really fast. In less than 4 minutes, the lounge was reduced to charcoal.
Nigel Latter blows stuff up next Sunday at 8 on 1.